All right, this is a quick little video to give you some background information on the survey that you're going to take below based off of the sermon that I preached on Sunday. And so one of the main questions that we want to ask ourselves as we think about this survey and next steps for the church is, what is our unique calling as a church in fulfilling the Great Commission? What is it that God has designed us for here at Metolius Friends, taking into this next chapter, and what does he want us to do while we're here? And so we looked at Matthew 28. So if you're not familiar with the Great Commission, look at Matthew 28. It's verses 16 through 20. We encourage you to read that. And then there's 5 questions, and we broke them down into 5 different headings in the sermon, and we used 2 different illustrations. One was the physical body, which is Paul describes in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 12 through 26. And then he says the church is a body. And so he uses it as there's, different parts of their body, but they're all important. They're all equal. They all need to be moving in the same direction. And then I also use the illustration of a crew on a ship. And that if you're on like a sailboat or a boat that has a purpose where you're part of the crew, then you have a job to do. And it's not just riding passenger or a stowaway on like a cruise ship, that you're not just taking in the sights and sounds, but you are part of an integral part of everything that's going on, so that the ship can head in the direction that it's supposed to. And so you'll see within those questions, once you click on the survey, there's going to be 5 questions. The 5th one's a bonus one. But the first one really asks the question, what's going well at the church? And so what are we rooted in right now? What are things that God has planted that are seeds of strength in the life of the church, and that everybody in the church is part of the crew, and they all contribute to the good of the ship? And so then another question that comes out of that as you think about this for you, what are things that are going well, and how can we build on these things? That we have all of the body parts, but are we using all of the body parts? Are you being used in the life of the church? And if you're like, I come to church, but I don't know how to get plugged in or what to do, maybe some of those are the things that you can think about as you prayerfully go through this survey. The second thing is what feels like a challenge or a barrier. And so being ready to face those things head on. I looked at the illustration of Nehemiah. The wall around Jerusalem was broken, and he faced that reality. There's a problem here. There's something that we need to address and be aware of. And so is there something that feels like a challenge or a barrier in the life of the church, growth of the church, health of the church, you individually, or maybe even is there something that's a challenge or barrier inside of you? And so looking at that, the crew on a ship, they assess any situation, and then they respond. They don't just let a slow leak build and not do anything about it. And so if there's an injury on the body, that our body acknowledges that with pain. And so being aware of those things, facing those things head on. The third thing is revitalization, finding out what's missing. We all have blind spots in our own lives, things that we can't see, things that are missing in the life of the church. And so, we want to see if there's something missing. How do we address that and fill that need? Just like the disciples did in the early church. There were people who were being overlooked. And so the disciples met together and they said, we're not going to stop preaching the word, but we're going to get some other people to help fill in this missing gap. And so if there's things that are missing in the life of the church, how can you, as you think through those, can you help fill some of those missing gaps in the life of the church? We're developing new recruits. Sometimes we need to adapt. The crew adapts when needs arise on a ship. And then if your physical body has unused muscles, then they tap into those to get the job done with what is happening. And so God often reveals what's missing so that we can feel that, and you can be a part of that. Lots of times it isn't just pointing out something that's missing, but it's pointing it out and saying, this is how I can help fill that missing position, like the missing part of a puzzle piece. Then the puzzle isn't complete until that missing part is found. The fourth one is refinement and being clear. Is there anything that's unclear or confusing? 1 Corinthians 14:33 says, God is not a God of confusion, but a God of peace. And that clarity, when we have clarity around something, it leads to confidence. Then we can make a confident step forward or a decision when the things are clear around that. And so on a cruise, on a sailboat, the crew sails best with a clear course. This is where we're headed. All right, we all know that's where we're going. We all know our job. We all know what to do. And then the body thrives when all the parts move together. If we're trying to lift something, move something, walk in a direction, all of the parts moving together in our body, then it thrives. If there's a part that isn't working right, then, or there's confusion within that, then our body doesn't work as well. And the last one, real quick, is responding. And so Isaiah 43:19 says, "Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert." God is always bringing new things into our lives, that he is doing new things. And sometimes in places where it seems dry and empty and dusty. And so prayerfully asking God, what's next? And the crew prepares the ship to head out into new waters. If the ship's in harbor, then the crew prepares it to head out into something new. The body stirs when the Spirit breathes new life into it. We have a revitalization and responding to this call of God on our lives. And so hopefully you've made it this far. As you think about taking those next steps of answering this questionnaire, our hope and prayer from myself and our elders is we want 100% response from the congregation. So I hope you answer the survey within these next couple of weeks, and it really takes 5 to 7 minutes. But a couple things: prayerfully ask God about those questions, and we think of it as we're in this team together, and we want it to grow forward. And how can we do that positively, constructively, and what is God saying to us as a group in this next season of stepping into life and what God has for us here in the church. So hopefully you take the quiz. All you have to do is click the button below. It'll take you there. You can put your name at the bottom if you want, but you don't have to. And encourage you to share with us so that we have a good, clear picture from everybody in the life of the church that is attending and is excited about what God is doing in what is next. He's a God of new things and a God of growth. And so I'm excited for what he has next. Thanks. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.